This is Max and Mia podcast.
Hey there, English learners. Welcome back to Max and Mia, the podcast where we help you boost your English skills in a fun and natural way. I'm Max.
And I'm Mia. Great to have you with us today.
Today we've got something really special planned for you. We're going to share two amazing stories that will help you practice one of the most effective learning techniques out there, shadowing. But first, let me explain what shadowing actually is, because some of you might be wondering, what on earth is that?
Oh, I love when Max gets all teacher-like.
Well, someone has to be the serious one here. So, shadowing is basically when you listen to someone speaking and try to repeat what they're saying at the same time, like being their shadow. You don't pause the audio, you just follow along, copying their rhythm, pronunciation, and intonation. It's like singing along to your favorite song, but with English stories instead of music.
That's a perfect comparison. And the best part is, you don't need to understand every single word at first. Your brain starts picking up patterns naturally.
Exactly. Now, here's what I want you to do while listening to today's stories. First, grab a notebook or open a notes app on your phone. When you hear a word you don't know, jot it down. Don't worry about stopping the podcast. Just write it quickly and keep listening. You can look up those words later.
And remember, the goal isn't to be perfect right away. Some of you might feel a bit silly at first, trying to speak along with the stories, but trust me, it works wonders for your pronunciation and fluency.
Absolutely. I've been using this technique for years when learning other languages, and it's incredible how much it helps. Your mouth gets used to the sounds and rhythms of English, almost like muscle memory.
So Max, what kind of stories are we sharing today?
Well, we've got two completely different tales for you. The first one is about a young woman who discovers something unexpected in her grandmother's attic. It's got mystery, family secrets, and a bit of adventure.
Ooh, I love a good mystery. And the second story?
The second one is lighter and more humorous. It's about a guy who tries to impress his date by cooking dinner, but everything goes hilariously wrong. Perfect for practicing everyday vocabulary and expressions.
Sounds like our listeners are in for a treat.
Before we dive into the stories, remember, don't pressure yourself to understand everything immediately. Listen first, shadow second, and then you can always come back and listen again. Each time you'll catch something new.
All right, everyone. Are you ready to start your shadowing adventure?
Let's begin with our first story. But before we jump into the story, let's go over 5 key words that you'll hear. This will help you follow along more easily. Mia, why don't you start us off?
Vocabulary preview.
Perfect. The first word is dusty. D-U-S-T-Y. This describes something that's covered with dust, like when you haven't cleaned something for a long time. For example, the old books in the library were dusty because nobody had touched them in years.
Great word choice. I'd add that dusty often gives us a sense of something being forgotten or abandoned. Here's my example. She opened the dusty trunk and wondered what treasures might be hiding inside.
Nice. Okay, Max, your turn to give us a word.
The second word is stumbled. S-T-U-M-B-L-E-D. This means to trip or nearly fall while walking, usually by accident. For example, he stumbled over the loose stone and almost dropped his coffee.
Oh, I love this word, because it can also mean to discover something by accident. Here's my example. While looking for her keys, she stumbled upon an old photo album under the couch.
Exactly. It's got that double meaning. Now tell us, Mia, what's our third word?
The third word is faded. F-A-D-E-D. This describes something that has lost its original color or brightness over time. For example, the faded photograph showed her grandparents on their wedding day, but you could barely make out their faces.
That's perfect for our story. I think of faded as something that was once vibrant, but time has made it pale. Here's my example. The faded curtains in the old house had probably been bright red once, but now they looked more like pink.
Beautiful. Max, give us the fourth word.
Number 4 is creaked, C-R-E-A-K-E-D. This is the sound that old wood makes when you step on it or when something moves. For example, the old stairs creaked loudly as she climbed up to the second floor.
Ooh, creaky sounds always make stories more mysterious. Here's my example. Every time the wind blew, the old door creaked open just a little bit, making everyone nervous.
Perfect. And our final word, Mia?
The last word is beneath. B-E-N-E-A-T-H. This means under or below something. For example, she found the lost ring beneath a pile of autumn leaves in the garden.
Beneath sounds a bit more formal than just saying under, doesn't it? Here's my example. The secret passage was hidden beneath the old carpet in the study.
Exactly. It adds a bit of mystery to whatever you're describing. All right, everyone. Keep these 5 words in mind as you listen to our story.
Story number 1, The Hidden Letter.
Sarah had always avoided her grandmother's attic. The narrow wooden stairs creaked ominously with each step, and the dusty air made her sneeze uncontrollably. But after her grandmother's funeral last month, someone had to sort through the accumulated belongings of 8 decades. She climbed carefully, testing each step before putting her full weight on it. The afternoon sunlight filtered through a small window, illuminating countless dust particles dancing in the air. Cardboard boxes were stacked everywhere, labeled in her grandmother's careful handwriting, Christmas decorations, photo albums, kitchen items. Sarah opened the first box and found faded tablecloths that smelled of lavender. The second contained her grandmother's collection of teacups, each one wrapped in yellowed newspaper from the 1980s. She was making good progress when she stumbled over something hard beneath a pile of old blankets. It was a small wooden chest, about the size of a shoebox, with intricate carvings on its lid. Sarah had never seen it before. The metal clasp was rusty, but it opened easily. Inside, she discovered a bundle of letters tied with a blue ribbon, along with a black and white photograph of a young man in a military uniform. The letters were written in her grandmother's youthful handwriting, but they were addressed to someone named James Morrison. Sarah's grandfather had been called Robert. She read the first letter carefully. It was dated 1943, and it spoke of love, hope, and the fear of war. "My dearest James," it began, "I count the days until you return from France." Sarah sat on the attic floor, completely absorbed in the correspondence. Letter after letter revealed a passionate romance that had apparently ended when James never came home from the war. The photograph showed a handsome young man with kind eyes and a gentle smile. On the back, someone had written, "To my beloved Eleanor, until we meet again." As Sarah read the final letter, she realized that her grandmother had kept this secret her entire life. Eleanor had married Robert, Sarah's grandfather, but she had never forgotten her first love. The last letter was different. It was from James's mother, informing Eleanor that James had been killed in action just 3 weeks before the war ended. Sarah carefully placed the letters back in the chest. She understood now why her grandmother had been so private about certain things, why she sometimes stared out the window with a distant expression. Everyone has chapters in their life that remain unspoken, buried beneath the surface of their everyday existence. She decided to keep the chest and its contents. These letters were part of her family's hidden history, a reminder that love stories don't always have happy endings, but they're still worth preserving.
Wow, Max, that was a beautiful and touching story.
You're right, Mia. It really makes you think about how much of our personal history stays hidden, just waiting to be discovered. Now, before we move on to our second story, let's quickly review some important grammar patterns you just heard.
Great idea. First, did you notice how we used the past perfect tense? For example, Sarah had always avoided her grandmother's attic, and James had been killed in action.
Exactly. The past perfect shows us that something happened before another action in the past. We form it with had plus the past participle. Here's the pattern: had plus past participle.
Another thing to notice is how we used relative clauses to give more information, like cardboard boxes that were stacked everywhere, or letters that were written in her grandmother's handwriting.
Right. And we also used lots of descriptive adjectives in different positions. Sometimes before the noun like narrow wooden stairs, and sometimes after linking verbs like the metal clasp was rusty.
Don't forget about the passive voice. We said the letters were addressed to someone instead of someone addressed the letters to. This focuses on the action rather than who did it.
Perfect observation. The passive voice is really useful in storytelling when we want to emphasize what happened rather than who did it.
All right, everyone. Ready for our second story? But first, let's preview the vocabulary.
This second story is quite different. It's much lighter and funnier. Mia, what's our first word?
Vocabulary preview.
The first word is sizzling. S-I-Z-Z-L-I-N-G. This describes the sound food makes when it's cooking in hot oil or on a hot pan. For example, the bacon was sizzling in the pan, filling the kitchen with a delicious smell.
Great choice. I think sizzling is also used to describe something really hot or exciting. Here's my example. The sizzling summer heat made everyone want to jump in the pool immediately. The second word is scrambled. S-C-R-A-M-B-L-E-D. Most people know scrambled eggs, but it also means to move quickly and awkwardly, often using your hands and feet. For example, when the alarm went off, he scrambled out of bed and rushed to get ready.
Oh, I love how scrambled can describe that panicked, hurried movement. Here's my example. She scrambled through her purse, desperately looking for her house keys while standing in the rain.
Exactly that frantic feeling. Mia, what's our third word?
Number 3 is charred. C-H-A-R-R-E-D. This means burned until it's black, usually by accident when cooking. For example, the toast was completely charred because he forgot about it while answering the phone.
Charred sounds so much more dramatic than just saying burned, doesn't it? Here's my example. The charred remains of the barbecue showed exactly why you shouldn't leave beginners in charge of the grill.
Ha, that's perfect for our story. Max, give us the fourth word.
The fourth word is drizzled. D-R-I-Z-Z-L-E-D. This means to pour a small amount of liquid over something in a thin stream. For example, she drizzled honey over the warm pancakes for breakfast.
Such a lovely word. It sounds so elegant and controlled. Here's my example. The chef drizzled olive oil over the salad just before serving it to the customers.
Beautiful. And our final word, Mia?
The last word is catastrophe. C-A-T-A-S-T-R-O-P-H-E. This means a complete disaster or something that goes terribly wrong. For example, the wedding became a catastrophe when it started raining and all the decorations blew away.
Catastrophe is perfect for describing those moments when everything goes wrong at once. Here's my example. His attempt to fix the computer turned into a catastrophe when he accidentally deleted all his important files.
Exactly. Sometimes we use it in a funny way when things aren't actually that serious. Keep these words in mind as you listen to our second story.
Here we go with story number 2.
Story number 2, the dinner date disaster.
Marcus had been planning this evening for weeks. He wanted to impress Rebecca, the woman he'd met at the coffee shop last month, so he'd invited her over for what he confidently described as an authentic Italian dinner. The problem was, Marcus had never actually cooked Italian food before. In fact, he barely knew how to boil water without burning it. But how hard could it be? He'd watched dozens of cooking videos online, bought expensive ingredients, and even purchased a new apron that read, "Kiss the Cook." What could possibly go wrong? Everything as it turned out. Marcus started with the sauce at 5 o'clock, giving himself plenty of time before Rebecca's 7:30 arrival. He confidently threw tomatoes, garlic, and herbs into a pan, but forgot to add oil first. The vegetables stuck immediately to the bottom, creating a sizzling, smoking mess that triggered his smoke alarm within minutes. While frantically trying to silence the alarm, he accidentally knocked over the salt container, spilling its entire contents into the sauce. He tasted it and nearly choked. It was like eating seawater with chunks of charred tomato floating in it. Panic mode activated. Marcus scrambled to start over, but now he was running out of time. He decided to multitask: pasta in one pot, new sauce in another pan, and garlic bread in the oven. This seemed like an excellent strategy until he realized he was simultaneously burning the garlic bread, overcooking the pasta, and somehow managing to undercook the sauce. The kitchen looked like a hurricane had swept through it. Flour covered the counters, dirty pots were stacked in the sink, and something sticky had been drizzled across the floor. Marcus didn't even remember using anything that could create such a mess. At exactly 7:25, the doorbell rang. Marcus looked around his kitchen catastrophe and made a desperate decision. He quickly ordered pizza from his phone while running to answer the door, hoping he could somehow explain away the smoke and the smell of burned garlic that filled his apartment. "Hi, Rebecca," he said with his biggest smile, trying to block her view of the kitchen. "I hope you're hungry." Rebecca stepped inside and immediately noticed the chaos. "Oh my goodness! What happened here?" she asked, looking genuinely concerned rather than annoyed. Marcus's face turned red. He'd prepared elaborate explanations about power outages and faulty ovens, but looking at Rebecca's kind expression, he decided to tell the truth. "I'm a terrible cook," he admitted. "I wanted to impress you, but I think I've just created the world's most expensive disaster." Rebecca laughed, not mockingly, but with genuine amusement. "Well, this is definitely memorable," she said. "How about we order pizza and you can tell me about your culinary adventure while we wait?" As they sat surrounded by the evidence of his cooking catastrophe, sharing stories and laughing about the evening's disasters, Marcus realized that sometimes the best dates are the ones that don't go according to plan. Rebecca's ability to find humor in the situation told him more about her character than any perfect dinner could have. The pizza arrived 40 minutes later, and they ate it straight from the box while sitting on his couch, talking and laughing until midnight. It wasn't the sophisticated evening Marcus had envisioned, but it was infinitely better.
What a fun story. Now let's look at some grammar patterns you just heard.
First, did you notice all the past continuous tense? Like Marcus had been planning and he was running out of time. We use this to show actions that were ongoing in the past.
Right. The past continuous is formed with was were plusing verb. We also heard lots of past perfect continuous. Had been planning, had been cooking. This shows actions that continued up to a point in the past.
Another important pattern was conditional sentences. We heard, what could possibly go wrong? And how hard could it be? These show hypothetical situations or possibilities.
Great point. And notice how we used while and when to connect actions happening at the same time. Like while frantically trying to silence the alarm and when the doorbell rang.
Exactly. We also used lots of time expressions to show sequence. First, then, while, at exactly 7:25. These help listeners follow the story chronologically.
And don't forget about those phrasal verbs. We heard turned out, knocked over, running out of, and go according to plan. These are super important for natural English conversation.
Well, there you have it. 2 completely different stories to practice your shadowing with. How did you do, everyone?
I hope you had fun trying to keep up with both stories. Remember, if you felt a bit overwhelmed the first time, that's totally normal.
Absolutely. The beauty of podcasts is that you can listen as many times as you want. I'd recommend listening to each story at least 3 times. First time, just focus on understanding the general idea. Second time, try the shadowing technique we talked about. And third time, really pay attention to those grammar patterns we highlighted.
And don't forget about those vocabulary words. Did you manage to write them down? Go back and look up any words you didn't catch. Building your vocabulary is like collecting treasures. Each new word makes you richer in English.
Great analogy, Mia. You know what I love about today's stories? They show us that English isn't just about perfect grammar and fancy words. It's about connecting with people, sharing experiences, and sometimes even laughing at our mistakes.
Exactly. Sarah's discovery in the attic teaches us that every family has hidden stories. And Marcus's cooking disaster reminds us that authenticity is often more attractive than perfection.
Speaking of authenticity, we want to hear from you. How was your shadowing experience today? Which story did you find easier to follow? Did any particular words or expressions stick with you?
We love hearing about your English learning journey, and your feedback helps us create better content for future episodes.
Before we sign off, let me give you a quick challenge for the week. Try using one of today's vocabulary words in a real conversation, whether it's with a friend, a colleague, or even just talking to yourself in the mirror. Use words like stumbled, scrambled, or catastrophe in your daily English.
Oh, I love that challenge. And here's another tip. Try describing your own day using some of the grammar patterns we discussed. Maybe you had been planning something, or perhaps you were doing 2 things while something else happened.
Perfect. Remember, learning English is like cooking. Sometimes you'll create something amazing, and sometimes you'll end up with a charred mess. But every attempt teaches you something new.
And just like Marcus discovered, the best experiences often come from the unexpected moments, not the perfectly planned ones.
So keep practicing, keep making mistakes, and keep learning from them. Your English journey is uniquely yours, and every step forward is worth celebrating.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Max and Mia. We'll be back next week with more stories, more vocabulary, and more fun ways to improve your English.
Until then, keep shadowing, keep learning, and remember, you're doing great.
Bye, everyone!
See ya next time!